Thank you all so much for being here. Instead of me just reiterating a bio that's kind of boring, I wanted to give everyone 30 seconds. Everyone good? There you go. I wanted to give everyone 30 seconds to introduce themselves, let us know the pronouns that you use, and what you're up to, what you're currently working on. So, you want to start?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm Flay, Christine. I'm a recording artist. I'm signed to Interscope. I just put out a record 3 weeks ago. Thank you. Which I'm excited about. And yeah, I'm about to hit the road on tour in a couple weeks. Oh, and she, her, hers.
I am Shea Diamond. Ooh, thank you. I love the excitement. Ooh, the Shea Diamond fans in the audience. I am with Asylum and Warner Chapel label. And as far as my pronouns, this is an excellent opportunity to be able to express what my pronouns are and the limitations or the lack thereof. So my pronouns are goddess. So and goddess, yes, and goddesses give power and give life to kings and queens and to he's and she's and they and theirs and them. So goddess is a representation of not being bound by this thing that they've controlled for so long, not male enough, not female enough. And so I know that the male representation, they won't claim me as being their representation. And the female does say, oh, you're not me. And so, again, I'm beyond that. I'm a goddess.
Amazing. My name is Bayli. I'm an independent recording artist and songwriter with Warner Chapel as well. It's really an honor to be here, truly. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And yeah, I have a project out. My first ever project is out now everywhere. It's called Summer Mixtape, and I'm just excited to be here.
Hi. Ooh, hey. Yes. Hi. My name is Daya, and I'm a recording artist with Interscope, and I'm working on an album currently, my second album, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks, Billboard.
Hello, my name is Parson James. I'm a recording artist, newly independent recording artist. Working on my debut album, actually, which is exciting. My pronouns are he, him, his. Most recently, I put out 2 singles this summer. The first as an independent artist called Minute, and the second I put out with my friends Vincent and Rabel, and that song was called Oh Love, and it benefited the Love Loud Foundation. All proceeds went to preventing youth suicides in the LGBT community.
Amazing. I'm honored to be here with you all, incredible people. Daya, I wanted to talk to you first. You came out after already becoming an established artist. So did you notice a distinct difference in your time before coming out and after, and how has that affected your career, art, professional life, personal life?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I came out last September, yeah, it's almost been a year publicly. And I think it's had many impacts on my career and my music, and more than anything, I feel like I've been the same person all along, but I feel like in terms of like the consumption of my music, it's been a bit different. And I think that I was kind of told to I was kind of discouraged, honestly, from coming out because I would lose those mainstream radio fans that I'd gained from my first singles, my first album. So that was a bit difficult to play with, to process in my head, because in my head, it's just I am who I am, and I want to express that, and I want to build a community around that with my fans and everything. And so I did it anyways. But fuck 'em. But yeah, I think that it's opened me up to a whole new world of queer artists, producers, songwriters that I love working with, and I'm really excited to see what comes next with that. Yes.
Awesome. Flay, I know that you have maybe had a fairly similar experience in some ways. You came out recently. Do you share some of Daya's experiences? Were you also maybe discouraged to come out? Did you experience anything like that?
You know, I think I actually didn't really have any of those conversations, and my music has kind of lived in the alternative rock space, which I think maybe just there were less like conceptions that this would have an effect on any of that. But yeah, for me, I think it was really just a decision. I'd been dating my girlfriend for a year, very seriously, and it felt odd as an artist who's very authentic in my kind of like whatever online persona and in my songwriting to not express that huge part of my life. And I think, you know, the impact that it's had for me, and I don't know if you guys share in this experience, is it just feels like my world has expanded in a lot of ways that I sort of can't even describe on some level, but I think in terms of like the people I connect with and have been connected to, my songwriting, there's just an openness that kind of pervades everything in a different way that's been really exciting and kind of unexpected, to be honest with you. So it's, I've honestly found, I wasn't really discouraged. I had like some conversations with my manager and my publicist and my girlfriend, obviously, about how we wanted to do it. And I think we did it in a way that like felt really good and kind of brought people in to my experience and our experience. So it was, it's been a really expansive thing for me.
Awesome. Parson, you, on the other hand, have had a fairly different experience, it seems. You've blended artistry with advocacy for the queer community for years now at this point, with your work with Love Loud, GLAD, Trevor Project. What did that look like for you initially, and how has that carried throughout your career?
I would definitely say that I've gradually been able to, fully immerse myself in making my art parallel with advocacy. In the beginning, I've been kind of doing this thing in the major label world since I was about 21. And I was definitely discouraged at first. It was pretty openly discouraged. I was told to maybe be more elusive. There should be some mystery about you. Everyone doesn't need to know everything. You don't invite everyone in. You know, you can never be fully like a true pop star or a successful, musician if everyone knows every part of your life. You got to hide. And that's kind of a roundabout way of saying like, please don't come out, I think. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was I was at a major label that was run by two openly gay men. They were the heads. So I was thinking that I made the decision to join that particular label because, oh my God, community, we're here together, right? But it was really surprising that I wasn't encouraged in that way. I was actually told to lessen things down. I actually got given one example of an openly gay artist who I look up to a lot to not be as camp as that person. And I just found that super discouraging. But in saying that, I never, ever strayed away from the truth. I grew up in South Carolina where I was denied, loving myself for a very long time. And, when I busted the fuck out of there, the last thing I was going to do is have people sitting in a boardroom telling me not. I was like, I had to fucking cut my dad's side of the family off, bitch. I'm not doing this here at, So I made a vow from then that every chance that I get to use my platform, because I'm even given a platform, that's crazy to me, that I have to, it's a duty to me to speak my truth. I for so long didn't love myself. I know so many people feel that way all around the world. They feel out of place or not invited to the party or, too unique for this crew or that crew. And if I can make music that will lift people up, because I didn't have anyone really doing that to me whenever I was growing up and listening to music, then I'm going to do it. So now it's no question. The advocacy is going to bleed into the work constantly. That's who I am now. That's who I am always.
Love that. And Bayli, have you ever felt discouraged? Has anyone ever openly in the industry told you to tone it down?
Yeah. So in my experience, I'm from New York City, so yes, go New York. Um, we're surrounded by LGBTQ plus culture. I grew up with, seeing, culture from the gay community, cultural diffusion, all of that. So for me, it was something I never even questioned whether, my fluidity, my sexual fluidity. When I started being attracted to people, it was always boys and girls. There was never a question. I never even felt bad about it. When my band got signed, I was always open about it. When my band got signed, it was something that I brought up with my management, with my team, and definitely the same thing as Daya. I was told to just not bring it up because it could affect, marketing in a bad way. It was definitely something that was very compromising for me. Now that I'm kind of like my own artist, I think that I've, I'm allowed to take the stand, and I kind of just went full throttle. My lyrics are very much about my personal life, and that includes my sexual fluidity. So.
Awesome. Shea, your story is so incredible and multifaceted, and I believe so vital in understanding the full spectrum of the queer experience. Can you tell us how music has become a vehicle through which you are able to share your story?
Well, for me, I've always been the quiet one, the one that tried to play it safe. And again, just like Parson, I was not one of the popular ones. And so it was in school and that I noticed that I was singing a song at the lunch table and just like pounding on the table and making a beat, and I just seen everybody just coming and just coming. They all wanted to be at my table. So it was this thing to where nobody wanted to, instinctively I noticed that nobody wanted to sit around me, be around me. They noticed my femininity and they didn't want to have any parts of it. And so when I seen everybody coming in and listen to the music, that became a thing. That's when it first started becoming a vessel that I noticed that music really had power and could change people's thoughts and their feelings, their moods, their perspectives, their hatred even. And so I was incarcerated after foster home and emancipation. So I did 10 years in a male's institution. And that was another part I learned, that there was just nothing but hatred for people like me. And so either I was highly desired or I was just purely hated for no reason. So again, in there, I started writing, and I started writing all my feelings down. I didn't know it would be a song. I didn't coin myself or fashion myself a songwriter. I just had enough. And so, like I seen white people do in the past, they write down their thoughts. so, so I started writing down all these thoughts. And it was everything from how my treatment was with the church, how I was rejected by my mother. And the last words I remember before I left home was she told me that I was going to hell. So she had already judged me and condemned me to hell and told me I was going to die of AIDS. So that was the last words I heard from my mother, And I had time to really think about all the hate that was projected all around, not just from her, but from siblings, from friends that I was good to. I had never did anyone wrong. And from a perspective of being pleasant or being approachable, I was the most approachable person. I was a social butterfly, wanted to love everyone, hug up on everyone. And so what I didn't understand is after I sacrificed so much for all these people and did so much for all these people my whole life, how could they just turn their back on me just because I didn't identify with the male or female spectrum? And so, so I just got to writing, sitting in my cell. The guards harassed me. They didn't want me outside on the yard anyway because I didn't look like the rest of the inmates. And so they said I was a threat to the good order of the facility, but I was a threat to society just for existing. And so all these things just came to me, and I just said, you know what, forget yard. You know what? I started writing songs about how people in the yard were like a monkey in the stage in his quiet stage, a monkey in a cage in his quiet stage. That's how I started looking at things. And so I just sat down. I said, you know what, I'm not going to go to yard. I'm going to just write down my thoughts. And I wrote about the church, and I wrote about being an outcast and how there's an outcast in everybody's life. And I am her was this thing that they denied me of. It was a right that they denied me of. They said I wasn't her. And so everything I had experienced and I was going to experience, they would never honor that. And so I got the vessel, or realized there was a vessel in prison, actually. And that's why I knew that there was power to it.
Wow, that's incredible. This question is for everyone, anyone who wants to chime in. But how important is representation and visibility in this industry?
Representation for a trans woman is absolutely necessary.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just one. You know, I don't want to just be the token, the one trans artist that they gave a break to or they saw. There's many talented people out here that just don't get seen because you don't want to see their image or what they project. So outside of their talent, outside of who they are as a person, you can't get past their sexuality or their presentation. And so,
Yeah, I mean, completely what Shea is saying. I think that representation is so important because, you know, there's a lack of opportunity, right? For sometimes for people of color, for women, for queer people, for trans women of color,
for
black people,
women.
Right?
Yes.
And I think the only way that we can make that change is by, you know, having a voice, using the platform, like you were saying, and yeah, I think, yeah.
And I think now is the time for us to be more visible, you know, because with trans women being killed for no reason, just for being themselves, it's because people don't know us. The only representation they know of us is Jerry Springer and all these old other ratchet shows, you know, that don't tell a true, authentic trans story.
Right.
And so by us being hidden in media, hidden in TV, hidden in music, it's just people are always overwhelmed or surprised that we can do anything besides reveal ourselves of who we are.
Yeah, because those things are not stopping. The murders are continuous, and I think that what you're saying is absolutely right. It is being swept under the rug, and unless you have someone in the forefront, you know, and it needs to be some people. It needs to not be someone.
Right.
To spread that, to make that known. Otherwise, it's going to be forgotten. I think it is so very important for, you know, a black trans girl in the middle of America or outside of America to look at the screen and see themselves represented. It does change something in the mind. It makes everything possible for those dreamers, for those people that before thought it wasn't, you know, it's not even, I shouldn't even go up for this. I shouldn't even dream about trying to be an artist or whatever you want to be in life because you don't see anyone like you. It really changes so much when I always think of children. I really do. I think of children. I know we need to educate the adults and the people that are small-minded and shit, but these kids that are coming up and looking for a purpose, they need to see us. They do.
It's very important.
I think I think representation of like multidimensional queer people in the media is so important. And I feel like even when I was growing up, I didn't feel like I fully fit into like a heteronormative society, but I felt androgynous, like ambiguous with my sexuality, but I felt like even the people who were like the queer people represented, I think that they were like token people. They were just like this, like it felt like this forced thing. Like this is this like gay best friend and like that to all the girls or whatever. And it just didn't feel like it
That
was
one
like,
black friend.
yeah,
that you
the
talk
one
about,
token person
that
That's
you
just
never
what it felt
see.
like. Yeah. And so I feel like it's like beyond important for the media. That's why I love shows like Euphoria and shows that are like really naturally bringing in those narratives, those queer narratives into the media. I think that that's just the most important. I also think like executives and like high people at the labels and people behind the scenes, like producers, songwriters, there should be more queer visibility across the board, not just with artists, but everyone behind the scenes too.
And get more black faces on the cover of your magazines. Stop hiding us in the middle of the pages on page 136. We are worthy, and we've worked hard enough to be on the cover of that magazine. So put a little color on the cover of that magazine.
I want to ask you all what queer artists, or you mentioned Euphoria, media inspire you?
I mean, at the moment, it's 1,000% Pose right now. Everybody that's on that show. I remember talking to Lady J at a party before the show had came out. And I was just so excited at the prospect. She was like, it's going to be the most, the most transgender people in one cast of all history and all this. I'm like, oh my God, bitch, yes. To see it, episode 1 is an emotional. You were in the show in episode first few, right?
Yeah.
I saw you in there and I was crying, bitch, screaming. That to me is so powerful, and what it's becoming, and all of the actors on that series give me so much hope. It's so very inspiring.
And I believe as well that this is a perfect opportunity. Pose gives us as a community the perfect opportunity to be able to highlight some of the things we're going through right now. And so with the constant fight for rights, Pose gives us gives cisgender people a window into what it is like to be us, and what it was like to be us back in those days. Back in the days where we were suffering from HIV and AIDS, and we were dying. It was a death sentence. And so how they treated us and how they treat us now, and how they still don't honor us in our existence and in the space that we share with them. Everything we've contributed. Everything we've added to this movement and to this world, we're just not appreciated. And in this hour, in this season, that we still have to say, hey, we're here. We just want to be respected and accepted. Why are we still asking to be accepted? When we start coming into the room, we shift things. When we come into the room, color comes into the room. And this black and white and gray, these dull things that we've been told that life is supposed to be, male and female. Who is it, a girl or boy? What are you wearing today, black or white? How you gonna wear your hair? Brown. I'm feeling a little risque. And when we start being ourselves and being free to be ourselves, when there are no chains or expectations to who we have to be, then we'll start seeing this amazing rainbow, the colors that we really represent in our community. You'll see the love, you'll see the acceptance, you'll see how we bring things together, and you'll see the magic.
Yeah, just to, this is something I've been thinking about, and I think everyone's kind of touching on this, and it might just be, I found it useful, so it might be useful for everyone here too. I think like a really interesting way to look at society and privilege is who is given the gift of nuance, right? So like straight white men are super nuanced in our popular culture, right? They can be anything. They are represented in a million different ways. Their emotional experience is represented in great depth. And I think when you look at communities and people who are not given that same privilege, they are also not given really nuance in a lot of the ways that are obviously authentic to every individual's life. And I think what's exciting to me, and we still have a long way to go, is that in our culture, we're starting to get these nuanced representations of people who previously were not given that privilege of nuance. And I think, you know, for me, it feels very imperative, and we're all involved in creating culture and media. Like, to me, that's the imperative, is that we create platforms for people to express their own nuance, and we also actively create that nuance and represent it in our world. And I think sometimes when I'm consuming popular culture in whatever way, I sort of have that barometer of like, how nuanced is this representation? How much nuance are these writers or these musicians or this magazine, how much nuance are they affording the people that they're representing? And how do we make sure that that's kind of maximized? So it's just been a useful thing for me recently. So just want to mention it.
Well, I think the powers that be, you know, it doesn't really serve them to allow so much diversity, because when I can benefit from it being a certain way, and it only being a certain way, it only being male dominated, then I control everything. And so, somebody, Alexa going off. Did y'all hear that, or was that just me?
No, I heard it.
Alexa is nosy. Siri, get out of it. Nobody's talking to you. But, you know, and just like with my trans experience, I believe personally, and this is just my opinion, I don't speak for every trans person, I believe that the trans experience gives cisgendered people a rare and unique opportunity to be able to face their other side, or realize that they have another side. And we all have this Y and X, you know, situation happening. And so, you know, it depends on how we connect to either or. And so when we bully people not to connect to a certain size, boys don't cry. Girls, cross your legs. Now, what if I want to have my legs open today and let me breathe? You know, it's just the expectations that have been put out don't include us. For us to be a part of this now, and it's driving cis people crazy. The scene on Pose with Billy Porter,
Yes,
and what was his name?
Ricky.
Ricky.
Yeah.
Ricky and Billy had a sex scene. Drove 6 people crazy. Drove them crazy. They was fine with the show until that sex scene. So people are fine with things as long as they don't have to connect with all of the truth. And so if they see a trans representation and they see us, they say, okay, you know what? You look like this, but you could be this. They're fascinated with that, but they're limited by that thinking. And so once we don't fit into that narrative, then we're broken down. They find a way to break us down as presenting as a female. I'm not female enough. But when I was male-bodied, I wasn't male enough. So they don't want to call you what you want to be called. So, you know, it's an attack on your femininity or attack on your masculinity. Every time they limit you and say that you're not who you say you are, that they question who you say you are. It's your existence. Beyond your body, we're all spirit. It's your existence. So how can they question your existence? So now it's redundant. I'm old now. I'm 41. I'm closer to the grave than I am to the cradle, so I'm not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to ask for permission to be myself. I'm not saying, Mommy, can I be me anymore? I'm a grown-ass woman.
Yeah.
So that was incredible. This is for everyone. Looking forward, what resources do you feel the industry is lacking for queer artists? And what can allies do to support queer artists in this industry?
I think allies can be consistent. Consistency is key. No, because you see these, the big brands and things that partner in alliance with Pride. Thank God we're right now in August doing something Pride related, and it's not just June. I think that our allies have to be consistent. If they are truly wanting to be allies, then I think that's gonna benefit us all. For the consistency is what's gonna make the biggest change. I think personally.
I think they can stop being allies and start being accomplices. I right. Like you said, consistency really matters. I want to know that they're there. If you're an accomplice, then we're in on this thing together. So no matter what happens, I know my road dog got me. My ace boom coon.
Yes.
My bunny to my Clyde got me. So when we start communicating on that, and I know I can trust you,
Right.
then it's a whole nother different level. Then we can make change happen for real.
Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying. Like, safe spaces like this, creating spaces like this for the queer community, to me is so vital. I've never felt better about being open about my life, sharing things, learning from everyone, feeling okay to be different, my experience. And I think things like this, like, creating safe spaces for people in the community, I think this is vital.
Yeah, I also think that proximity is key to being an ally. I think that you need to be surrounding yourself constantly with people who are queer and identify as some part of the LGBTQ community. I think in order to fully emphasize and understand their struggles, I feel like you need to I feel like that's what creates a lot of distance within us, and a lot of the gaps in homophobia in this country is because the people who are homophobic just they've had these views ingrained in them they've been passed down from generations, and I feel like they just need to surround themselves with people who are queer, see their struggles in person, and for me too, I want to be an ally to other members of the community as well. So my journey in the queer community has been it's been amazing for the most part, and I want to understand the struggles of someone who is a POC queer or a transgender, trans person, whatever, and fully understand their struggles as well, not just my own. And so I feel like just being proximate to people and surrounding yourself with a community that includes queer people is really important.
They can purchase our music.
Hey.
They can collaborate. Partnerships are welcomed. These are real things, tangible things I can touch. I don't want to hear you saying that you're my ally and that you believe in me and, oh my God, I'm a fan. Have you bought my shit?
I also think in our own community, more collaboration. I would love to see more queer people working together. I think that's when I get the most excited, when the opportunities come around or when you do see it. I think that's important as well, and it's important for people that are consuming our media or other sorts of media to see. I think that that's a big thing in our own community. But
I agree. I'm waiting on us to do this queer We Are the World thing.
Yeah.
It's time. It's time.
Let's do it.
I'm already talking to people yeah, it's time.
So I guess last question, what advice do you have or would you have for young artists, queer artists starting in this industry? If you could have had someone tell you some advice when you were getting started, what would that look like?
don't listen to the stuffy white men in the boardroom. Nothing's impossible. There's no limitations. Wholeheartedly believe in your art inside and out, and that will connect and cut through in some way. It might not be with your first single or your first acting gig or whatever the case may be. Staying true to your art and really understanding yourself inside out and truly always living in that. That'll cut through, because I think authenticity always does, and it's taken us a long time to get to a point where we can have a Billboard Pride Summit. remember when Billboard Pride was created, like just 2 years ago or so. I was overwhelmed with emotion by that because Billboard is something, it's the pinnacle growing up, looking at the charts and all that sort of stuff. And to see Pride associated with that and now expanding, and we're here on this stage with all these beautiful people of the community, I think nothing's impossible. And I think I would tell, well, my younger self didn't listen to anybody really, so so I probably would be like, okay, girl, continue. I would say don't set any limits. It is such a big, beautiful world ahead.
Yeah, I think to be very real, like as a young person, I'm still in the discovery process. I think I'm still learning. I'm learning things about myself, how I want to present. Yeah, I think it's listening to your instinct and just saying, does this feel okay for me? Am I being a good person? Am I making the right choice that feels, morally okay for me? And just, blocking out that noise, not letting other people shake your self-esteem, because society will do it,
Yeah, I think another thing too, just in terms of younger artists and kind of like action being an important part of everything. I think for young musicians too, playing shows and expressing your music, like physically and connected to other people is such a huge part of the process too. It's a visibility thing, but it's also, I think really foundational in kind of like establishing your identity, solidifying it, exploring it, and like as someone who goes to a lot of shows, I get really excited when I see people that are inspiring up there and are doing their thing and are being authentically themselves. So I think, like we all have the ability to make music in our rooms, and that's awesome. But I do
In the shower.
in the shower, many places. But I do think that barrier of the live show is a huge thing. And I think for a lot of young artists, that's like, it's really important to be out there. And for venues and promoters to give space
Right.
for people to do that.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules. This was amazing, and it's just the beginning. So thank you all so much for being here, for hearing. Awesome.